Rage, written by J. Carrale Jones, narrated by Lauren Sweet. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See the description for the timestamp.
I gotta get out. The rage burns deep inside me. The heat makes me insane. I gotta rage! I took the drug for fun, it made me feel great. All the power in my hands, lust, power, and rage. I gotta get out of this cage. Otherwise, I'll do nothing but rage. I don't understand this feeling. It consumes me from within. Trying to escape this feeling of pain, to fight and be angry. It has to be my rage. I gotta kill and maim, consume and burn, destroy and crush. Burning inside me is hate. Nothing to do but rage. I have one thought and it's clear. Rage. Nothing else but rage. Kill, murder, and crush. Nothing to do but rage. But rage. I have one thought and it's clear. Rage. Nothing else but rage. Kill, murder, and crush. Nothing to do but rage. But rage. I have one thought and it's clear. Rage. Rage. Nothing else but rage. Kill, murder, and crush. Nothing to do but rage.
The gun is back. Mary and I made it just in time to board. We didn't have to go through the regular TSA lines. I had my way and she had hers. That shaved off about an hour. Last night, I upgraded both our seats to world-class business. Actually, I upgraded mine. Mary, I had to buy a new ticket. But because she was an employee and there were 2 unsold WBC seats available, the airline gave it to me at price. For once, Mary would be pampered. She almost didn't take the offer, but I persuaded her. I told her I have an unlimited budget. Not quite the truth, and I could write this off as business-related. A total lie. She gave in, and the rest of the night was blissful. While on the flight, Mary had a hard time just being a passenger. She wanted to help, and I had to gently remind her she was a passenger. The other flight attendants would always shoo her back into her seat. One of them said, "Mary, yesterday you were a co-pilot. Today you are a passenger. Forever you are my hero. Now get back to your seat and relax." After 2 hours in the air, she finally adjusted and just let it all be. Other than a few bumps, our flight was uneventful. I was able to finally absorb all the info in the folder Vadnez gave me. It was the 4 horsemen riding hard toward humanity. What do you do when you know a time bomb drug that randomly sparks apocalyptic Armageddon zombie nightmares into reality is out there? Riander's bath salt variant was scary. With regular bath salts, it was rage and sex when something went wrong. With her street variant, it was rage and random acts. Then a thought occurred to me. Riander said meth and marijuana negated each other. It was caffeine that interested her. I made a phone call from the seat phone. Cortez answered switchboard. Is Vadnez in his office?
Negatory. He stepped out a few hours ago. Need to pass on a message? He's in a meeting with the CDC and UNODC.
My heart raced. Yeah, tell him Reanders was very interested in caffeine. Then a thought occurred. Cortez, who was our rager? Cortez said,
Our John Q. Public was a Mr. Philip Michael Hunt.
That's a real name?
You've heard the jokes too.
His laugh was almost like Guy's. He cleared his throat.
Anyway, Mr. Hunt was an average Joe. Troublesome youth, but nosed clean through adulthood. He got caught up in the grunge scene and never left. He was on a trip to visit his girlfriend, CPL Kelly Stanford, stationed in Germany. She just finished rotation from Afghanistan. She hasn't received news yet.
Oh.
Yeah, total suckage.
You have access to his credit card records? He said.
Karen, still a human of little faith. Yeah, he bought coffee at the airport Starbucks, Grande. He used his Starbucks card. He drinks it by the gallon.
Thanks, Cortez.
2 more things.
Yes?
Reanders escaped shortly after you captured her. The 2 officers are okay, but hospitalized. The paper trail shows that she may be in Vegas, LA, or DC. We're not sure yet. She has a dozen private jets, and they all left within minutes of one another.
Who's on it?
Vadnez left it to the FBI, lest we tread on U.S. sovereignty.
And the second thing?
Reanders lied about the former assistant. I checked. Dr. Piper is still on the payroll. She has an office in Century City. She also has a fully functional research lab in Santa Monica. 1 and 1 is adding up to oh shit.
I agree. Cortez always got good intel.
Only from my best girl. When you get to LA, don't do anything I wouldn't do. And if you do, don't get caught.
Never.
Huh.
He ended the call. A lot to think about. Reanders on the loose. I fear no man, but this woman was different. What do you get when you mix scary genius with rage? The end of days? December 21st was around the corner. I needed to think about something else. I looked over to Mary. She had headphones on and was getting into the I'm just a regular passenger role. That made me feel better, and I tried to think about all things good. Scary genius kept coming up, so I stopped trying to fight it. And I thought of different ways to end her life. Bullet to the head, to the heart, throat cut, decapitation, strangulation. All made me feel better, and I was finally able to relax until we landed. Jim was waiting for us at baggage. I told Mary about Jim, and I warned Jim about Mary. Both were good with it, so that made life easy. He waved, and I ran to him. He caught me, and I tried to slip my tongue down his throat. He returned the kiss likewise. Mary reached us and said, "We need to get a room if you keep this up, and I so want some more." Jim broke first and gave Mary his best grin.
Mary, so nice to meet you.
He means it. That's not a real gun in his pocket. Mary looked down. OMG, Karen. 8 inches is really 8 inches. Jim blushed.
Ladies, please.
Mary and I laughed. Then a horrible thought occurred. Suppose Mary and Jim hit it off. She's based in LA, and she'll be able to see him more often. Oh man, Karen, what have you done? I was pretty quiet during the car ride. Both noticed. Mary asked, "Karen, what's up?" I smiled. Nothing, just enjoying the moment. While I had a tight and muscular body, Mary's was smooth. She was toned, but with just enough fat to make her hot. She had a nice butt, and I loved her breasts. They were perfect on her. Mary leaned in closer. "You sure?" I leaned in too. "Of course." And I kissed her on the nose. Now I hadn't even considered Jim's feelings on this. Here I am coming home and bringing toys. Most men would love to be in Jim's shoes right about now, and I'm doubly sure later tonight. But how did Jim feel about this? "Jim," I said.
Yeah?
"I'm being pretty selfish. How are you with all this?" Mary sat quietly. He looked over at both of us.
Karen, At first, I wasn't sure what to think, but this is you, and I'm okay with that.
I stared back.
Seriously, I'm okay. I've learned that anyone you want me to include in our circle will be included. Period. And you do give me lots of space, which I really do appreciate.
After a few seconds, he added,
Friday and Number of the Beast.
Now I felt better. Both of my favorite Heinlein books. I wasn't sure if Mary got the reference. She laughed. Too weird. I said, huh? She answered, Time Enough for Love and Stranger in a Strange Land, my two favorites. Jim and I laughed. I did make a good move. We got to Jim's apartment before noon. Luckily, Jim had the day off. Timing is everything. He parked in front of his new F-150, and we carried all our luggage up 3 flights of stairs. I had a large suitcase with clothes and accessories and medium suitcase with work-related gear. I used a tactical messenger bag as a purse on this trip. Mary had her large luggage and a small tote bag. Once inside the apartment, we deposited them on the living room floor. Jim walked into the kitchen when his phone rang.
Damn, I hope this is my mom.
He answered.
Yes?
Seconds ticked by.
Seriously?
More seconds.
Give me 30. No, 30. Not sooner. Sorry, no, I can't drop this one. And if I didn't answer the phone? Yeah, exactly. No less than 30. Is it required? Sarge, push me and... Thank you. See you soon.
He hung up and looked grim. I looked at him. It started?
That's why you're here, isn't it?
I nodded. He walked over to me and kissed me like never before. Then he turned to Mary. She leaned in and he kissed her with just as much passion. Then he stood straight and got ready for work. Mary said, What just happened? Our nightmare. Serious shit. Nightmare? She said. I nodded. Have a seat. She did. You know I work for the UN. She nodded. You've seen me in action. She nodded again. I'm sure it was only the tip of the iceberg. The guy on the plane is a small part of this. Her eyes grew big. You've heard of bath salts. He was on that? I nodded. My brother-in-law tried that before Oregon made it illegal, and he never acted like that. Really? My sister said he'd hit on the weekends. She tried it a few times and said she hallucinated colors for hours. She didn't like the afterglow and gave it up. You've tried it? Nah, we drug test regularly. Even binge drinking is discouraged. I don't even smoke pot. Mr. Hunt. That was Passenger Hunt? OMG. Sorry, continue. I smiled. I'd never name my kid with that combination. She nodded. Well, Mr. Hunt was on a variant of the drug. He had other chemicals in his system which may have triggered his rage. Wow, was what I got. Your sister and brother-in-law coffee drinkers? He isn't, but my sister is. I thought about that. History of meth? Thank God, no. Nasty stuff. They both do marijuana when the kids are not around or asleep. Jim came out of the bathroom. He had packed a duffel bag, probably clothes and things, and dropped it by the door. He was wearing sweats. I figured he'd change at the station.
I have 20 minutes before I go.
He smiled. I licked my lips and said, Plenty for me. Don't know about Mary. She picked up on the cue. I'm there in 10. Jim stepped up to us and kissed me first, then Mary. Mary, I said, the gun is back. She giggled and pulled his sweatpants and underwear down. Jim nearly poked us in the eyes. And fully loaded. We both giggled and did our thing. Jim did his job and satisfied us in 15. We finished him minutes later. There are people eating people out there. After Jim left, Mary and I continued. We took our time and just enjoyed the moment. Around 3 p.m., my official cell went off. It was Cortez.
Karen, Channel 9 News, quick.
I fumbled for the remote and tuned Jim's 60-inch flat screen to Channel 9. Again, LAPD has quarantined Skid Row. All traffic has been halted into and out of anywhere east and south of Main and 3rd and west and north of Alameda and 7th Street. CDC has been called in. There are reports of vicious attacks and acts of cannibalism coming in. LA County Sheriff, LAPD, LA Fire Department, and other organizations have mobile units in front of City Hall. There's talk about bringing in the National Guard. I turned the TV off. I told Cortez, "I'm on it," he said.
Be safe. Out.
Mary was looking at me wide-eyed. She was scared. "Is this real?" I nodded. "I gotta go." She grabbed me. "Please no, Karen. This shit scares me." "Mary, look, this is what I do. I put myself in harm's way. I have to assess the situation firsthand." She stared at me for a long time. She had the same look she did on the airplane. Then she wiped her eyes and said, "I'm coming with you."
The hell you are.
"Karen, I will not stay here by myself, and I gotta know. You seem to be one of the few people who are in the know. I flew shotgun with you for God's sake." "Mary, please, think this through. Most likely all the action is in Skid Row and not here." "I don't care. Need to be near you. I can help too." I stared at her. She stared back. "Karen, please." I pointed out the window. "There are people eating people out there." "I ate you, didn't I?" Well, that knocked the wind out of my sails. I softened my tone. That's different. Eating is eating." And she dared me to answer back. Instead, I kissed her. "Have you ever fired a pistol?" "My sister taught me. 9, 10, 45, 357 shotgun, M16, A2, a handful of rifles." "Okay," I was convinced. "Seriously, this is worse than real. You saw how the guy was on the plane." She answered, "Headshot, end of rage." I nodded and got my medium bag. The large one had my clothes. This one was work-related. I plopped it on the bed. I had a special lock on the bag. It had the UN seal and my agent number. I unlocked it. Mary's eyes went wide when I opened it. "They let you travel with that type of arsenal?" "Yeah, neat, huh?" She reached in and pulled out my M4A1. "I'll take this one." I laughed. "Not this?" I pulled out a Carr limited edition pink pistol. "And that too. It's so cute. That's my backup gun." I pulled out 2 Glock 20s. "Mine." Next came my 15-inch hunting knife plus my K-bar. I took out my short sword, some stars, a few throwing blades, duty belt, boots, gloves, bodysuit. The tactical vest came out last with a light level 3A Kevlar vest. "Sorry, I only brought one vest." "Then can I have one of those nasty-looking knives?" I had an extra 15-inch Jungle Master. I gave it to her along with a small walkie-talkie. I pocketed 2 and placed my short-nosed Smith & Wesson 357 in a back holster. It was a 7-shooter and my backup. 5 minutes later, I was set to dish out death. Mary had black tights and a black tank. With her black biker boots and my Jungle Master strapped to her leg, she looked tough. Me, I was downright scary. Something out of a G.I. Joe comic book. "Ready?" "Ready." We took Jim's F-150. 30 minutes later, we pulled up to a roadblock. I presented my ID. It took several minutes to verify my credentials. I found a spot and backed the truck into it. Mary and I got out and walked to one of the command posts. Everybody was represented, including the FBI. "Who's in charge?" I asked. I figured the mayor and chief of police would be in RACR feeding pertinent data to this mobile post. A few hands pointed to a mobile command unit that had LAPD markings. We walked over. I showed my ID. Donaldson turned around.
"Well, Karen, not surprised to see you. Nice flying, but your landing sucked. Jim told me you might make your way down here."
"I'm here talking to you. Doesn't that mean anything? What's the news?"
"Scary, that's what. We got a dozen teams going in, pulling people out. There's groups of ragers. That's what we are calling them, roaming the streets.
Groups?
Yeah, I don't know how many. RACR spotted about 20. Small arms is only effective in headshots.
You in charge?
The commander is. He's in the van. Let me introduce you.
We followed Donaldson up a small set of stairs. The MCU was abuzz with activity. One side had a bank of cubicles with chairs and monitors. One individual was talking into a walkie-talkie.
Unit 2 proceed. RACR gave clearance. Nothing in sight for at least a block.
Donaldson cleared his throat. The commander was seasoned with weathered skin, but his eyes were crystal sharp. He gave me one look.
Bechard, right?
Quick. I am. And you, sir? He kept his eyes on one of the monitors.
Unit 5, hold that position. RACR hasn't cleared it yet. Richardson, you here to take over, get in the way, or help?
Get in the way. You an observer, but I'll do tactical and or rescue. He looked over to Mary.
Civilian?
Assistant. Name is Hernandez. She can be a runner as well as provide shooter backup. He gave me one more look.
Approved. Donaldson, they're yours.
We followed Donaldson. Before we reached the door, Richardson started shouting,
Unit 5, fall back! Herd coming your way from 5th and Wall Street, north! Fall back west!
I stopped and turned. I could see the herd Richardson was talking about on the monitor. They were running toward a group of about 6 officers. Richardson said,
What the devil? There's another herd. They'll be closed in. Unit 5, go immediately east. New herd closing in from west. Run! Run!
We watched in horror and disbelief as the 6 officers ran. The monitor switched to a different camera angle. Oh shit, I thought. They're not going to make it. Within a minute, everyone was in eyesight of one another. Unit 5 started shooting. I heard over the walkie-talkie.
Unit 2 on the way to assist. Over.
Richardson spoke out loud, but in a low volume.
Not sure if they're going to make it.
He turned to Donaldson.
We have any spare units to assist? No, sir. All the units are out. I need a mobile to assist.
I spoke up. We can do that. I have Jim's truck keys in my hand. What's the radio frequency? Richardson gave it to me. Mary and I ran to Jim's truck. Ready, girl? Ready. I pulled out and headed to an inner barricade. Richardson radioed ahead for them to move the barrier. We sped past the cement blocks. I had the walkie-talkie in my shirt pocket with a white earpiece stuck in my ear. Mary had hers on the opposite side. I heard Richardson on the radio. He named us Mobile 2. Interesting. I briefly wondered what happened to the first Mobile 2. I turned down Wall Street and saw about 20 of them. Blood-covered and torn clothes. Blood on their faces and hands. The movies got the image better, but real life was scarier. I gunned the engine and ramped them. They were doomed souls anyway. I'd have sped them closer to that end. I took out about half with one being tossed into the bed of the truck. He got up, raging, smashed a hand through the back window. Must have broken every bone in that hand. He grabbed my collar and pulled. Mary stuck her gun through the opening and blurped a set of rounds through his skull. The hand slapped and let go. I saw several more and ran them down too. Then I saw the officers. 4 were dragging 2 while shooting ragers. I stumped on the accelerator and took out 3 more. Mary and I finished the rest off with headshots. Get in and someone toss the deadweight out in the back. They put the 2 wounded in the back. 2 sat up with us in the cabin. I stumped the accelerator again and sped up Wall Street. 2 ragers had the nerve to try and compete with metal. Both lost. I told the 2 officers in the back, I'm UN Agent Bechard. This is Ms. Hernandez, my partner.
I'm Officer McKinley. This is Rogers. Cass, Dean, Jones, Sanchez are in the back. Thanks. We owe you.
We had 3 blocks to go. Do you know an Officer Jim Anderson?
This is some mad shit out here. Yeah, I do. He's with Unit 12. They took a Hummer further in. We got thousands of people out there. Most were able to lock themselves into various buildings. Office buildings and hotels are secure. We have dozens of units safeguarding those. But there are some with limited shelter. Some liquor and grocery store owners were able to lock some patrons and themselves in freezers and meat lockers. But of course, we're gonna have to get them out eventually. It's the smaller shops and motels that got hit hard. Some folks are locked in cars and vans. They're safe, only because they hadn't been discovered yet by these ragers. Those are the ones we're trying to get to and extract.
We made it to the barriers. I stopped outside a medical unit. Mary asked, "Why so many?" McKinley answered,
So many. There are hundreds of them running rampage. I'd call them zombies, but they run.
"Haven't they tried to get out?"
Yeah, and we stop them each time with deadly force. It's like the mind is still working, but amped on anger juice. They attack, then suddenly they all know when to stop. Eerie.
We got out and walked over to the command unit. Richardson was waiting. Some spots RACR couldn't see. McKinley said,
Commander, all dead. The camper was ripped to shreds. Body parts everywhere.
Someone from the command unit yelled out,
We got another 911, not too far from here.
Donaldson said,
Mobile 2 is the only one on this side of the barrier.
Then we heard over the radio,
Mobile 11 coming in with survivors. This is Mobile 20. ETA 2 minutes. Gonna need EMTs.
I pulled the earpiece away and draped it over my shoulder. Directions?
On the roof of the Weldon Hotel, Maple and East 5th Avenue. Take wall and make a right on 5th.
Mary and I ran to the truck. McKinley and Rogers were already in the back seat. This time they were dressed in riot gear, had M16s, 2 pistols, and some flashbang grenades. I started the truck and popped it in drive. We zipped past the barriers and headed toward Wall Street. I put the earpiece back in.
Unit 30 secure for the moment. We have 8 civilians. 3 are hurt, but not critical. Mobile 2, you got company. 5 newscopters are following you.
Great, I thought. Just what I needed. I took 5th pretty sharply, then slid into Maple. I slammed the brakes and stopped just in front of the entrance. McKinley and Rogers got out and took position just inside the building. McKinley said,
Get them. We'll hold.
As Mary and I walked through the carnage, I made sure we both had an earplug in our free ear. We stepped through some really nasty stuff, blood and guts everywhere. We found the stairs. In the distance, we could hear them raging. I couldn't tell how many, but I knew it was one too many. With Glocks in hand, I started up the stairs. Mary had my back with the M4 at the ready. It was like she was born to do this. Her sister was a great teacher. After a few minutes, we made it to the top, and about 5 were pounding on the roof fire door. I aimed and made 3 immediate headshots. 2 turned and jumped down the flight of stairs, raging. 1 caught the pistol in his mouth. Trigger squeezed, and that ended him. The last one had his arms raised. Mary blurped the M4 and half his head was gone. We made it to the door. I yelled, The stairwell is clear. We need to get you out now. The door didn't open. I yelled, UN Agent Bechard with a rescue team. We need to leave now. The door opened. I saw a collection of old and young men and women. All had lived a hard life. Follow me, I said, and started down the stairs. About halfway down, a door opened. It was a rager. Mary took him out with 1 shot. The girl was getting used to the M4A1's 5-pound trigger. We made it to the bottom floor. McKinley and Rogers just finished off about 10 ragers. It was maddening to think about why so many and why they are group thinking. It was beyond scary. We rushed outside. I did a quick head count. 13 plus us. The truck was too small. Okay, I said. Mary, you drive. McKinley, Rogers, and myself will stay. Everyone else into the truck. 4 up front, the rest in the back. Someone started to protest. I barked out, Shut the fuck up and get in the back. Another word and I'll take you out. No protest. With the truck packed, Mary took off. McKinley, Rogers, and I decided this was our home base. We pretty much had the building to ourselves, and if necessary, we had the roof as plan B. Off in the distance, I saw a Honda Accord driving up the street. All but 1 tire was blown, but it didn't matter. Something was lodged in the passenger wheel well. The wheel just spun, casting smoke in the air. He was going nowhere fast. Idiot, I thought. Reverse, then drive. The driver was probably in a panic and just wanted to get out. Then I spotted 6 ragers rush the car. They started pounding on the hood and roof. Karen, I told myself, save lives. I told McKinley and Rogers to guard the building. "I'll be back," I said as I ran toward the car. The Ragers had managed to lift the car over their heads and toss the thing about 10 feet. It landed on its side, and the passenger window buckled, then burst. One got on top of the car and ripped the door off. "Run, Karen, run." He reached in and grabbed a man. "Karen, run, faster." I stretched out my legs. "Run, Karen, run." He was about to bite the man in the neck. I reached him in time. Bam! My Glock barked. Headshot. The man dropped back into the car. I jumped on top of the car. Bam! 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 All headshots. All Ragers dead. I helped the man, a woman, and 3 kids out. 1 boy and 2 girls, all scared. The little boy was holding a backpack. The top was partially opened. A small white mutt terrier poked its head out of the opening. I said, "We have to get to that building." The man nodded. "Thank you. We thought we—" I cut him off. "Welcome. Building. Focus." He took a deep breath. I was about to say ready when I spotted a dozen coming at us. If this was the time to say, "Oh shit," I missed it. I grabbed the backpack and put it on. "Grab the kids," I said. The father picked up his son and 1 daughter. The mom picked up the other daughter. I said, "No matter what happens, you run for that building where the 2 officers are. This is serious. Don't stop, period, because your life depends on making it to that building." Both nodded. The group was now between us and the hotel. I yelled, "Run!" I hadn't reloaded, so the guns were limited. I pulled out my short sword and hunting knife. Both had blade edge facing outward. I ran and hoped the family could keep up. To their credit, the mom and dad did. Fear of death does that, I guess. I put myself in the middle zone and made sure my mind was clear. We had another 10 yards to go before we reached the Ragers when I remembered a verse an instructor used a lot. The mean old bastard turned out to be very poetic at times. "I am leaving you with a gift, peace of mind and heart, and the peace I give is a gift the world cannot give, so don't be troubled or afraid." And I thought of nothing. I reached the first 2 and slashed my blades. Head drop, head drop. I cut right. Head drop, head drop. I moved to the left. Heart pierced, arms gone, head drop. Then center line, throat cut, arms gone. More came at me. Throat cut, head drop, heart pierced. I lost count, but I kept centered and let instinct and muscle memory guide me. Head drop, head drop. I was Lady Death today and gave a lot of it. Hands grabbed at the father and I sliced up. Arms gone, head drop. Another tried for the mother. I sliced down and cut through the entire torso. I cut sideways and just worked the blades. The mom and dad ran faster. The kids screamed. I heard the father yell, "No!" and he bit down hard on a hand that had grabbed his daughter's shirt. I sliced up and the hand grip slacked. The father spat the hand out. I sliced again. Head drop, heart pierced, arms gone, throat cut, head drop, throat cut, arms gone. Then nothing. All the kids were crying and terrified. We had another 30 yards to go to reach the building when a few more came at us. I heard a gunshot, then 2, then 3. Ragers dropped at each gunshot. McKinley and Rogers were hitting dead center and dropping them. Several tried to sideswipe us. 3 shots, 3 dead. Seconds later, we made it to the building. I spoke into the walkie-talkie. "Mary, how's that ride?" "Just dropped off my payload. Got more troops and heading your way." Rogers looked over to me and said straight-faced,
"Agent Bechard, I want to have your baby."
His mic was live. I heard Jim's voice.
"Sorry, but I'm having that baby."
Just then, Mary skidded to a stop. Jim jumped out and I ran to him, still covered in blood. He caught me and planted a wet kiss on my lips.
"I expected you to be an observer, not part of the action."
I shrugged. "I'm not good at observing." Mary had brought a SWAT team. The mother had lost a shoe during the run. She took off the other shoe and flung it toward the pile of dead Ragers. She cursed them all to hell, collected her kids, and got into the truck. Mary said, After I drop the family off, I have to deliver more troops to the front line. There's about 100 of them gathering near 6th and Los Angeles Street. LAPD and the LA County Sheriff located a new command center near there. It's on 6th and San Pedro. She hugged me and got back in the truck. Be safe, girl. And she was off. I looked to Jim. What's the plan? He said,
Captain Banner is in charge.
and leaned his head toward an officer in full SWAT gear. He was talking to McKinley and Rogers. I walked up to him. Captain, UN Agent Bechard. I'm here to offer my assistance. The captain looked me up and down.
I think we got this one, Miss Bechard. I'll request a runner to pick you up.
I was about to say something when McKinley spoke up.
Captain, no, we don't got this one. I'll fight with Agent Bechard any time.
Rogers nodded. The captain looked perplexed. In 10 seconds, he marked himself as a sexist pig. I'd have to convince myself to save his ass when the fire got hot. McKinley pointed to the pile of bodies off in the distance. Banner looked, then looked at me. He was in turmoil.
Military?
Army. The First Iraq War, Apache pilot. Trained with the South Korean 707 White Tiger Commandos. Trust me, I won't be the one in the way. Jim said,
Wait, Karen, you?
Rogers said,
It was fucking awesome. She ran through a dozen of those things, with fucking long blades and with a family running behind her, and they came out alive. No cop here could have done that. If I had my choice, I'd fight alongside Agent Bechard anytime. Anytime.
Banner huffed. I could have ducked him, but he saved himself.
You want to do point?
Wedge, what's the mission?
Yes or no?
I gave you my answer. Now tell me the objective. He looked at Jim and said,
Feisty one. Bet she's a tigress.
Jim didn't answer. I saw he had his own turmoil to work through. Banner coughed.
We're going to start clearing out buildings and looking for survivors. Once we clear a building, we'll get a runner to move out survivors, if any.
While he was talking, I filled my magazines to capacity.
G.I. Jane here will take point. You officers will take rear. We'll do a wedge formation through the streets. Once inside a building, the officers will guard our exfil. The agent here will work point. We'll clear rooms and alternate. Any questions?
Are we ready yet? I asked.
Just for that, you can kick your own doors in.
I smiled and walked into the hotel.
Wait,
he said.
This building hasn't been cleared?
Nope. We went in and rescued 13 civilians, encountered some ragers. Might be more, and since we are here, this might as well be the first building. He grunted his approval. I pulled out my right holstered Glock and switched on the flashlight and laser pointer. Jim and the other officers guarded our rear. Banner and the rest of the SWAT team followed me. I checked behind the counter and saw body parts and dried blood. I walked through the first floor. The first door was locked. Banner's smirk disappeared when I kicked the door off its hinges. Messy bed, unflushed toilet, half-packed luggage. I heard the next room door kicked in. It took 2 tries. This one was clear, and I yelled out, "Clear!" I heard several more clears, and was once more point going up the stairs to the second floor. We repeated this all the way through to the roof. The hotel had 2 elevators, and we split off to ride them down to the bottom. Banner radioed in and said the hotel was clear and for a runner to send in a guard group to hold the position. We would make this our home base. A few minutes later, Mary showed up with a dozen National Guard soldiers. Banner wanted them to guard the hotel until we returned, and that was exactly how we would do this. Check, clear, bring in the guards to maintain. Mary was busy, and that was good. She was one of a dozen runners that kept a steady stream of soldiers, cops, and survivors moving through the entire area. It was the 6th building we went into that turned bad. I heard the scream first and rushed forward. The building was a local drugstore, and several raiders had broken through the back door. One was about to bite down on a woman's neck when I hit him in the head with the butt of my gun. He lifted up his head, and I made him eat the barrel. The Glock barked once, and he hit the floor like a sack of potatoes. One thing I found interesting was that there were no women ragers. Not one. The woman I saved was hysterical. She latched onto me and nearly choked me. I heard several other shots in the distance. "It's okay. It's okay." She sobbed harder into my shoulder. "Is there anyone else alive?" She cried harder. I lifted her chin up and gave her a sharp, short slap to the face. She stopped crying. "Is there anyone else around?" I asked. She blinked a few times. "Maybe. We ran in here and waited for hours. Then one of the women went crazy and rushed out the door. A few minutes later, those things rushed in. Then you came in." A few minutes later, we cleared this building. Banner called in a runner for guards and retrieval. It was getting dark now, and that just turned scary up a notch. He looked out to the street. I knew what he was thinking. I walked up next to him. "Forward or base camp?"
Our odds will just get worse if we continue.
I knew he was scared. Who wouldn't be? Raging maniacal cannibals in the dark. Then we heard over the radio,
"All units, return to your home bases. Runners will bring food, ammo, and sleep gear. Report your location by the numbers."
We were Group 20. Banner had sent the group of guardsmen to the last cleared building. He wanted to be sure it stayed cleared. 30 minutes later, Mary showed up. She made us her last run. She jumped out and gave me a big hug. "I'm staying the night here." I smiled. Best way to end the day. Banner walked up to us. He had been talking to Jim and the others for some time.
"You and Anderson can have first watch street level. Ms. Hernandez here is free to leave."
Mary said, "I'll stay, thank you. I'll do first watch with Karen." He stared at her for a few seconds, smiled, and said,
"Very well. McKinley and Rogers will relieve you in 4 hours."
The old perv had probably undressed Mary and bedded her within those seconds. He walked off. I looked at my watch. It was 8 and the sunlight was fading too fast. We used lobby chairs and couches as barriers. I was stationed on the right side. Jim left. Mary was our runner and kept us both engaged. We were close enough to talk in normal voice. Once we settled in, Jim said,
"Karen, I'm sorry."
I would have guessed he was talking about me being Lady Death.
"Sorry about my reaction this afternoon."
I said, "Jim, you didn't know. I don't talk about my work or what I do." He replied,
"Not that. When Banner made that sexist remark."
That got me for a loop. "Jim, no need. It was none of his business."
"I should have said something."
"I'm glad you didn't." "Jim, seriously, I'm glad you didn't. It worked out better that you didn't say a thing. Besides, we're on watch together. He figured it out and has a soft spot in the middle of that iron heart of his." He was silent for a moment.
"You know, this is the first time we've worked together."
I liked that about Jim. He was sentimental and very romantic. True, we really didn't know much about each other. I'd fly in for a few days, or we were able to take some time off together, but we never really engaged one another on the personal stuff. We had a lot in common, and that made it easier. It was the fine-tuning we never had a chance to do. But so far, I liked it. He did his job well. He was a police officer, level 3, so someone in the department thought he was worth promoting. He was a wonderful lover, and even let me bring Mary into our intimate circle. He was confident about himself. The fact that he apologized for not speaking up spoke volumes. Mary came up and plopped herself on a chair between us. She was exhausted, I knew. "How goes it?" She replied, "It goes. You guys need anything? Food? Water?" "Not yet. A bath would help." "That, girlfriend, we get at midnight." Luckily, we still had power. All the streetlights came on. A few minutes later, Banner came out.
"Word from RACR. The mass of ragers that was assembling earlier has been dispersed. We killed over half and wounded most of the others. The CDC is on the scene and took surviving ragers. What a blood spill. Tomorrow we clear more buildings, but it looks like we may have gotten this thing under control."
I nodded. He looked my way.
"Bechard?"
"Yeah?"
"I'm an old soldier. It's hard for me sometimes to see women in harm's way."
"Something change your mind?" He softly chuckled.
"Check out the news when you're off shift."
He left. Mary said, "Something I missed?" "Not really. Banner and I had a disagreement earlier." She said, "Karen, you know you already got a nickname." "Really? What's the name?" "G.I. Jane." "Banner called me that earlier." Jim spoke.
"The Demi Moore movie?"
Mary said, Yeah, it was a good movie. Pretty intense at some parts, but she did a good job. I really should be called UN Jane if that's the case. Jim took his eye off the street for a moment and looked at me. Then he looked back. I wondered if I scared him. Was he even into death-wielding butches? He was deep into thought. Most times, I dig what I can do. I can best most men in almost anything physical. I love wiping smirks and smiles off their faces when they say, "Aw, look, a little woman." After I kick their asses, they change their tune. "Aw, fuck, it's that bitch again." Which is totally fine by me. But I was having trouble with the thought of Jim rejecting me for the reasons I like being me. We remained quiet for the remainder of our shift. McKinley, Rogers, and one of the SWAT team members took over. Rogers tapped me on the shoulder.
I was serious when I said I'd have your baby. If Anderson has issues, I don't.
I smiled and gave him a peck on the cheek. He turned deep red. When I made it to the room designated as ours, Mary was already in the shower. Her flashlight was aimed at the ceiling, and that gave the bathroom enough light to see. Jim was sitting on the bed. He was still in his clothes. The TV was on, and he was looking at a local news channel. I'd forgotten about the news copters, but there I was, the whole scene of me saving the family. The newscaster warned everyone the broadcast was graphic and disturbing. I thought, you think? There was a close-up of my face, and the newscaster remarked how calm I was during the run. He, too, called me G.I. Jane. There was banter on who I could have been. One of them mentioned I was part of a covert department of the United Nations. I was certain Vadnez was having a cow. It didn't take much for me to imagine the lecture I'd get later. Ms. Bechard, we are observers, not participants. After watching the segment, Jim looked over to me. I was speechless. He took off his clothes, laid them neatly on the back of a chair, and walked into the bathroom without saying anything. No expression at all. Mary was still there, hogging all the hot water. I didn't know what to do. A few seconds later, Jim called out, "Karen, why aren't you in here with us? Mary is using all the hot water." I was so relieved. I took off my clothes and got a much-needed washdown. Buzz. Wrong answer. I didn't sleep all that well. Reanders had been on my mind. It made sense to assume Reanders was behind this. The Ragers acted more like her than like someone on bath salts, so that told me she was the one dealing. What bothered me was the timing. She escaped earlier, but that was not enough time for her to land, set up shop, make the drug, and distribute. She had to have been planning this for a while, but needed more info, which I had. I gave her the last piece of the puzzle she needed to refine the drug, and those things are the result. But that was the troubling part. Those things had once been normal people. Some troubled souls, some not, but still people. They were not of their mind as Ragers. I, as Lady Death, ended their torment and pain, but it still didn't sit well. Reanders, the mad scientist, murderer, dealer. I so wanted to shoot her in the head, but that would solve nothing. Not really. She needed to be captured alive. It was 4 a.m. when I decided to get up. I got dressed and decided to go downstairs. Banner and 2 other SWAT team members just relieved McKinley, Rogers, and the other team member. Banner looked over his shoulder.
Couldn't sleep, Princess?
I gave him a smile. Nope, I'll have some unfinished business to take care of after this.
You know, I find it interesting that the United Nations would have a representative here at this time.
Not so strange, I said. Believe it or not, I'm often in LA, and not just for vacation. Los Angeles is a cosmopolitan of sorts. It should be considered one of the world's capitals.
That's so. You know something about these things?
Who happen to be people gone bad?
That too.
I do. That's why I'm here.
Can you tell me anything?
I thought for a few seconds. It's a drug, a variant of bath salts.
That I figured, but the number of these things and the way they work together sometimes.
is the result of a tailored drug probably destined to the U.S. military. At least it was before all this.
No shit.
Yes, shit. And I need to find the creator. He thought for some time. Then he said,
Bechard, you're all right by me. The city keeps me as a mushroom. You know, I'm kept in the dark and fed bullshit. I'm told to perform. Most times I never see the big picture, like today. I just knew we had to shoot monsters and rescue people. Nothing about the whys this started to begin with. But you got the big picture and your sights on the cause. I saw that news feed of you today. That was some nice work.
Thanks.
I would never have had the balls to run headlong into that crowd. Forgive me for my behavior earlier.
Done. He paused for a moment and sighed.
My daughter would be about your age.
You're that old?
Yeah, retirement is around the corner. But she's serving in Afghan. And every day I pray she misses some IED. We talk once a week, but man, it's hard. After seeing you perform today, I know, with the right training, women can do just as well as men. But it's still a hard pill to swallow.
I gave him a light punch to the shoulder. Coffee?
Yeah, please. Black.
I walked back into the lobby. Mary had cleaned as much as she could earlier. The pot had about 2 cups left. I poured Banner and myself a cup and made more coffee for the others. The flies hadn't discovered us yet, but I was sure today would be the day. Flies and the smell. Disgusting combo. I walked out and handed Banner his cup. Another pot is brewing. He nodded and sipped his cup. I did likewise. Then we heard a shot off in the distance, followed by several more. Then automatic fire. The radio crackled.
Hold your position.
The shots were about a block away, about another 5 buildings after the last one we checked. Then we heard the screams. I raced upstairs to get Mary and Jim, both of whom were already dressed and headed my way. Morning, it begins. And they followed me downstairs. The radio crackled again.
Hold that line! Hold that!
Static, and the automatic fire stopped. Then we heard,
All law enforcement units, pull back to home base! Pull back! Military personnel will hold ground! Ground forces are on the way!
McKinley and Rogers were already in the truck. Jim was going to take driver when I said I think I should. He only thought about it for a second, then handed me the keys. Mary sat between us, and the SWAT team sat in the rear box. Banner yelled,
I hope you can drive like you can fight.
I revved the engine, yelled back, Better, and dropped the gear into D4. A dozen Ragers stood in front of us. Not one moved. I turned sharply left and caught the glimpse of something heavy behind them. Now they're thinking Ragers? That was a sobering thought. Banner called through the radio.
Why didn't you ram those bastards?
It was a trap. They were sacrificing themselves. We had another 2 blocks to go when I spotted another dozen just standing there. I spoke in the walkie-talkie. I don't like this. 1 block left. Then I saw the helicopters, Homeland Security and military. Marine Hummers drove past us along with several tanks. A dozen 5 tons and deuce and a halves rumbled by. We made it to the barrier and home base had been transformed into a military outpost. The troops arrived, for better or worse. I pulled up next to the LAPD command unit. Richardson walked out. He looked like he hadn't slept in days.
The military is running this rodeo now. We're to stand down and do cleanup later. They're going to clear the area out en masse.
Just then, my cell phone went off. It was Cortez. I said, Excuse me, this might be important. I walked a few feet away. Karen speaking. Cortez said,
I think they should call you UN Jane. More accurate.
Really? I was thinking that last night. He laughed.
You know, Vadnez is beside himself. He said the F word.
Seriously?
Yeah, but not for obvious reasons. Credit was given to the LAPD for saving that family, and that a UN operative may have stepped over the political line. The SG called Vadnez to his office an hour ago. Both want to see you as soon as you wrap up your case there.
Interesting that I was to report so soon. I figured Vadnez would let me stay in LA and email my report in.
By your silence, you find it interesting that Vadnez said after you wrap up your case. Threw me for a loop, too. I know the SG called the White House, so apparently you've got some leverage. Something about your heroic performance.
He laughed.
They don't know it, but that's just you being you. Brace yourself. You may be our new poster child.
What? Buzz. Wrong answer.
Negatory. But of course, I'm only speculating.
All right, speculator. Any other news I can use?
Olay, ye human again.
No theatrics.
Killjoy. Okay. Reanders is in Santa Monica. I found that out by simple detective work and a tap into a local surveillance camera. You are the second person to know. What you gonna do?
Could you send... My message notification indicator beeped.
Done. Map 2.
Anything else? Indicator went off again.
Your video went viral, and someone put a soundtrack to it. Close-ups and everything. Enjoy.
He hung up.
Runs into danger, knife blades out. Fighting monsters, gonna take them out. G.I. Jane, that's right. The one who's tough, she can fight. The mysterious woman can save the day. Learn to kill, murder, and maim. The perfect soldier, simple and plain. With a knife in her hand, guns that blaze day or night. She is here to help us all. G.I. Jane, she will protect us all. Use her might, the monsters will fall. Use her, the blades in her hands. She gives them pain. Her job is to save us from all that is evil, from monsters to bad guys. She fights them all. Her name is G.I. Jane. Forever and
I walked back over to the command unit. Banner was talking to Richardson. They both looked my way. Banner said,
You still in the know?
I gave him a smile. Now you will be too. Any place secure to talk?
Yeah, the command unit.
He walked in and several people walked out after he said,
Folks.
Banner, Jim, Mary, and I stepped in, and he locked the door. That'll raise suspicions.
My van. I get first dibs on debriefing. If Homeland Security wanted you so badly, they should have approached you. Okay, give.
Dr. Dorothy Reanders of the Reanders Institute is the creator of the variant bath salts and this new drug. Richardson grunted. Banner listened. Jim and Mary looked at me. She escaped NYPD custody yesterday, and we think with a high degree of certainty she is here. She's a super genius and very dangerous. We also think she's been preparing for something like this for a while. Just then, my cell went off. It was Cortez. Yeah?
Karen, transmission was through several of the local missions and food banks. She also distributed free water and drinks to all the homeless and locals. Only the needy would accept.
Thanks, Cortez. Can you send that to CDC? In a meeting right now, but I'll call you later.
Already done. Vadnez is determined to have our department get credit this time. Be good, girl.
He hung up. I looked at the group. More news. The drug was distributed through charitable means. Banner said,
Makes sense. All of a sudden, help swoops in from nowhere. What's our next move? Or what's your next move?
Indeed. What was my next move? The FBI is already after her, but they don't know where she is. I have strong intel on where she could be. Sneaking up on her would be difficult. She was able to remotely follow me through New York City and affect the traffic lights on a whim. She was also able to tap into my personal and official cell and momentarily disable them. To say her work is terse is an understatement. I thought for a few more seconds. She might even know we're on to her. Jim said,
If sneaking up behind her won't work, how about knocking on her front door?
Richardson said,
I'd like the LAPD to do the bust.
I've no problems with that, but I need to confront her. If she even suspects a trap, we'll lose her. We have some unfinished business, and I left her pissed. I'll have to go alone. No wire, no electronics, just me. Mary said, She's the one who started all this? I nodded. That's crazy, Karen. We can do this. Not we, you. You're going to be in there by yourself. Her eyes welled up with tears. Banner said,
I got my money on you.
He handed me his card.
Put me in contacts. Message me when or if you can, and we'll be there in minutes.
Richardson looked at Jim.
Well, what do you want to do, officer?
Driver there, sir. I can at least do that. Maybe wait nearby. He nodded.
All right, then. If she's outside of L.A., I'll have to make a few phone calls.
Santa Monica. Richardson smiled.
Good. I know the chief over there. I can make this happen.
He sat at his desk and took out his cell phone. A few button pushes later, he was talking to someone.
Tanya. Me, Frank. Peggy's good. So are the boys. How's Tom? Good, good. So why the call? Glad you asked. Remember how you always wanted a high-profile takedown? Yes. Yes. Exactly.
We left and let the commander deal. Once I stepped outside, I was approached by Homeland Security. He flashed me his ID and said,
Homeland Security, Porter. Agent Karen Bechard.
I flashed him mine. That's me. How can I help you?
Someplace private.
I smiled congenitally. Most certainly. I turned to Mary and Jim. Wait for me, guys. This hopefully won't be too long. I looked Homeland in the eyes. He said,
It shouldn't take long at all.
I followed him over to the Homeland Security Command Unit. We stepped inside. Porter said,
Please have a seat, Agent Bechard. May I get you anything? We have Starbucks coffee. Juice?
Coffee, please. No cream, no sugar. He got it for me. Is there something you wanted to ask me? I said sweetly and sipped my coffee. The temperature was perfect, and the blend was yummy. Mr. Porter relaxed.
Not ask, per se, but an offer.
And that is? I took another sip. He said,
A job.
I nearly spat the coffee out. A job? Then I laughed. Porter joined me. But I have a job. Porter said,
We know, but we would like to offer you a position within Homeland Security. It's a new division we're starting.
I sipped again. I don't know what to say. What is this new division?
I can't give you many details yet, of course.
Porter said. Of course, I replied.
You would be in charge and would have majority control of filling position.
Majority control?
Yes. There are some positions that would be reserved for promotion within. Some department heads within this division would be seated with senior FBI staff, some CIA, some military.
Really? A multidisciplined division? Budget?
Main budget tied directly to the Pentagon. If you could justify an ocean liner, you'd get it.
R&D?
10% from all branches.
Now that spoke volumes. Hidden research money. From all branches. Interesting. You know, I really like the UN. My boss, Vadnez, is pretty good to me. Porter nodded.
He thinks very highly of you.
I almost spat that sip out, too. You've spoken to him?
Not me, personally. The President, Homeland Security Secretary, your boss, and the UN Secretary General talked earlier.
He let that sink in. I'm gonna need more info. Porter thought for a moment.
Homeland Security is a mishmash of departments. The 2002 Act that created us left out the FBI and CIA. We did absorb some of their lesser departments, but those were rather toothless. The Coast Guard gives us bite, but that is on the coast. So, by executive order, a new department will be created.
And by executive order, it can be decommissioned.
Agent Bechard. Agent Bechard, a job is something you never need to worry about. In the US, in the UN, in any place. I am hoping I can arouse your curiosity enough to consider working for your home country. As director, you may not go out on many field missions, but you would have a major impact on those missions.
And that's the problem. I'm not a director type. I don't think I ever will be. He started to speak, but I held a finger up. This is not to say I won't consider the position or one of those field positions. Can you give me a little more info? He thought several moments.
Please, keep this between us. The new division is a blend of FBI and CIA, but under direct control of Homeland Security. Its jurisdiction is considerably wider than either of the two, and you'd be working closely with the UN.
My boss wants to talk to me after this is all resolved. Can I give you an answer after that? Maybe do some serious talking? He knew he had me. He gave me a Cheshire Cat grin.
Here's my card.
I stood up. I'll give you my answer in a few days. He stood up as well.
Of course.
And walked me to the door. Mary and Jim had been waiting outside. Before they could talk, I said, "Everything is fine. I need a good bath." Off in the distance, I could hear the sounds of machine gun fire. Victory through attrition, but with their side shrinking. We did most of the dirty work, and they'll take the credit. I shrugged. C'est la vie. Banner came up beside us.
Sucks pretty bad not to close one, doesn't it?
I nodded. It's not going to be an easy close, but I would have liked to have finished.
Well, there you go then. Job security.
And he smiled. Banner, I said, how would you like to be in the know? Often. He grunted.
Depends. How much of my soul will I have to sell?
I smiled. Not much, really. He said,
now I should be afraid.
I gave him that punch to the shoulder again. I'll give you a call later with more intel. He nodded, smiled. Jim looked at me.
You got something cooking, don't you?
I do. Then I turned and looked Jim in the eyes. You ever think about something other than the LAPD? He nodded.
Yeah, I do, but I like my job.
FBI, CIA?
Passing thoughts, but I suppose it would be nice working for the greater good. Local is good, but national is different. You get local and everything else.
What about you, Mary? Thought about anything other than the airlines? Mary reflected some. Sure I have, but being a flight attendant has lots of perks. Travel is free, and I meet lots of interesting people. She looked me in the eyes. Case in point? I blushed. But if you had a choice, what career would you pick? I got a charge out of shooting bad guys, but I know that's not the whole picture. I think I'd be too chicken to be a soldier or cop. Carrier, maybe. Jim asked.
Karen, why the questions? Something with Homeland?
I lied. Not at all. I was just debriefing with Homeland. Richardson was right. If they had wanted me first, they should have reached me first. Anyway, I was just curious, really. Banner looked me in the eyes and declared,
I'd never play poker with you.
We walked toward Jim's truck. I handed him the keys. I asked Jim and Mary to give me a few minutes. I took out my cell, Mr. Porter's card, and dialed his number. A few seconds later, we were talking. Mr. Porter, a question.
Certainly, Agent Bechard. I'll answer as much as I can.
I'm not the director type. I'd wind up pissing folks off and making a mess of the whole thing. Pissing people off is what I do best. I'm more of a field operative. That's what I like, and that would be the best place for me.
Agent Bechard, Director Vadnais said as such. He also said you would turn down the director position and ask for field operations instead.
Good old Vadnais. He does know me well. Suppose I gave you a recommendation for the director position. How much pull do I have?
A lot.
Okay. Can we talk tomorrow morning?
Excellent. May I send a car to pick you up, or would you rather drive to my office?
I'll drive there. Just message me the address and what's needed.
Thank you, Agent Bechard. We have good days before and ahead of us.
I agreed, and we hung up. I hopped into the truck, and Jim drove Mary and myself to his apartment. In the truck, I sent Cortez a message. He replied,
Congratulations, Director Bechard.
I typed out, "Shut up, you. Who said I was going to accept the position?" Cortez,
Because you didn't tell him no. Porter is talking to Vadnez now.
me. Is it over a secured line? Cortez,
Wide open. Interesting.
me. LOL. And of course you are monitoring. Cortez,
Me calm God. Not recording or listening. Much.
me. Is this why I have to see Vadnez and the SG? Cortez,
Prob your new assignment was going to be LA for an indefinite amount of time. Maybe this was in the works. But instead of you being a UN rep, Uncle Sam sees the benefits of having G.I. Jane on a local level.
me. You think? Cortez,
I know things. Remember, ye human of little faith. One day.
me. Signing out. Cortez,
Hugs. And don't forget the little people.
30 minutes later, we pulled into Jim's parking spot. We dragged ourselves into his bedroom and promptly slept. Voluntary or not, sit. It was 10 when we finally woke up. I turned on the TV and went straight to CNN. The military blew through the area and did a nice wrap-up job. There was some collateral damage, but what would you expect? That was the military. The brute force arm of justice. Hammer against sewing pin. There was another segment on G.I. Jane, and they wondered who I was. Lots of commentary from both left and right. Surprisingly, the left applauded me for rescuing the family, but thought my action excessive. Since I was so skillful, couldn't I have taken more arms and not as many heads? Some said charges should be pressed. Those were people not in control. The right felt I should have left the family, dealt with the problem, and then went back to save them. A CNN poll had favored my action by a good 73 points, which showed that those in position spoke what they thought and not what the people felt. I switched the TV off and made breakfast for everyone. I wasn't sure about Mary's cooking, but I knew Jim was an excellent chef. He was good at gourmet, and I was good at the basics. I seasoned lightly, stuck to the staples. Jim was creative and made each home-cooked dinner with me an event. Minutes after I set the table, Jim walked in. He kissed me hard. I said, "Nice to see you too." I made pan-scrambled eggs, toast, chopped mushrooms, and chopped sausages. There was a plate waiting for him. He sat down and I poured him a screwdriver. Mary entered a few moments later and gave me a sweet kiss. I liked the way she tasted. I wanted to go further, but returned the kiss just as sweet. She sat down. I had coffee in front of her plate. I sat down after serving everyone. And we ate. No talking, just eating. I had a Bloody Mary with my meal. When I poured Mary her second cup of coffee, she said, "Karen, I'm afraid." I said, "So am I, but I have to do this. I put myself in harm's way to help others, remember?" Jim said,
But that doesn't mean we can't worry.
I nodded. He said,
When do we do this?
"Now, no need in letting this linger." He nodded, and Mary's eyes teared up again. She came over to me and gave me a big hug. I said, "Seriously, I plan on coming out of this alive." She said, "Promise?" I nodded. "Pinky promise?" I gave her my pinky, and we shook. She smiled and kissed me again. Sometime later, I was standing in front of the Reanders Institute. I knew she was in there. Cortez had snapped a photo of her near here. The FBI visited yesterday to investigate, but had no evidence to permit a search. They did the standard interviews, noted what they could, and left. Me, on the other hand, was different. All I had to do was stand in front of the building. A minute later, A security guard came out. I gave him my best smile. He simply said, "Please follow me, miss." I noticed he was high off of some substance, but couldn't tell what. He wasn't wasted, just super alert. Coffee could never do that. He walked me through the gates, through the building, to a bank of elevators. He inserted a key. We took an elevator to the top floor. Reanders was standing in front of us when the doors opened. She had 3 bodyguard types flanking her. "Ms. Bechard, so nice to see you. How did you know?" I walked in, and the elevator door closed. It was me, Reanders, and her ghouls. They were on something. Their eyes were glassy, but they were not ragers. It was something different. "I have ways," and I smiled. "No doubt. I'm still safe here, at least for the time being. Please join me." And she gestured to a chair. "No brunch, no chit-chat, just right to business." She gestured again. "Voluntary or not?" I sat. "Tie her up," she said. Her guards duct-taped my arms and legs to the chair. She said, "I missed you, Karen. The last time we met had been under—" She thought for a second. "Strenuous circumstances," and laughed at her word choice. "We never had a chance to just talk and enjoy each other's company." "True. You were running and I was chasing you." "Yes, but here we are." She approached me and came within inches of my face. Her eyes were intense. She hated me, and she wanted to do me in properly. "Karen, I'd have to thank you. That stunt you pulled off back in New York, it gave me first-hand experience." "You're through business-wise. You know that." "Please, this is America. Money swings votes, and politicians need money. Half the hawks in the Senate and House would find a way to exploit my new military application. A few phone calls and I'm under witness protection. Another few phone calls and a dozen super PACs would be set for life. You think the Koch brothers wield power in that town? I got power." "That includes kidnapping?" She backed up. "It does. Phone call, charges dropped." Then a thought hit her. She came up real close and kissed me hard. All of a sudden she became hypersexual. She kissed my jawline and sucked hard along my neck. Then it was over. She licked her lips and went back to the table. "The side effects of the drug is hypersexuality. I absorbed a great deal and the effects are just now wearing off. I think I'll make you my toy." Yeah, that would work splendidly. I created several variants. One rages the user. The second makes them hypersexual. The third makes them completely and utterly susceptible to suggestion. Given a few commands, and you'll be my pet." She started laughing. "I so name thee, Karen Mutt, my pet." And she laughed harder. "Another added benefit is that the variants are not that highly addictive. The side effects would be to some, but not the drug itself. The market potential alone would court billions of dollars to my behalf." Sudden dread hit me. I was in over my head. The bad part was that I agreed with her. She'd have enough money to stay out of jail forever. She could pit politician against politician, government against government. I watched her as she worked, and I noticed so did my guards. Several had hard-ons. I wondered how far this hypersexuality would go. "Reanders, sorry." She stopped working. "Pardon?" "I'm sorry." She took off her gloves and approached me cautiously. She looked me in the eyes with suspicion. I looked away. She smiled. "I'm preparing something especially potent for you." "I don't think it'll be needed." "My toy and my bodyguard. Perfect combo for you. It'll be needed, all right. You're too much of a huntress to be trusted." I leaned my head forward and pouted my lips. She licked hers and kissed me again. I took her tongue and sucked on it passionately. She responded in kind. I don't know how long we kissed, but it was long enough. She let go my jaw. "My toy," she whispered. I said, "I want your other lips." She kissed me again and didn't give any attention to her guards. She rubbed her breast against mine and dropped her hand between my legs. I was aroused, so being wet came easy. She went down on me and licked hard. She moved my panties aside and bit down hard on my clit. Electric shock struck. She probed inside with a finger and sucked hard. Her aggressive touch set me off like never before. She then squeezed my clit and licked with fervor. I came within minutes. Strong, intense waves, one after another. I was drained. She wiped her mouth and stood up. My turn. She pulled her pants down and pulled her panties aside. She walked up to me and buried my face hard into her mound. She was rough and didn't give me a chance to use my tongue. She rubbed herself against my face harshly for minutes. Then she grabbed my ears and climaxed hard. Her legs quivered violently at each convulsion. When she finished, she pulled her pants back up and said, "Now, wasn't that nice?" She turned back to the table. "That was a very nice diversion." I said, "What about them?" "Who, my guards?" They all had raging hard-ons. She looked and giggled. "I should let them rape you, but you'd be no good after that." "How about you fuck them?" She thought about that. I looked at one of them. "You liked that, didn't you? How I came on her face, and how she face-fucked me. Turned you on, didn't it?" Realization set on her face as she saw things to come. "She likes it in the ass, you know. She likes it rough. You could come on," she screamed, "Shut up!" and slapped me. "You can come all over her nice, pretty pale ass and that lovely face of hers." She hit me again and tried to choke me. I started to black out when suddenly her hands were gone. She screamed as the guards grabbed her. One yanked her glasses off her face and tossed them. He tore her lab coat off and ripped her shirt open. A second one pulled her pants halfway down. He thrusted hard and started pumping. Her cries were muffled as the first one grabbed her jaw and made her suck. The third guard was jerking off and watching. He was waiting for his turn. I said, "Untie me and I'll fight back too." That did it. He ripped the duct tape off my arms and legs. I throat chopped him before he had other ideas. His windpipe caved in. Reander screamed and struggled. I walked over to my purse, pulled out my cell, and messaged Banner. "Ready, but guard at gate might be a problem. He has key to express elevator." Then I placed a 911 call and reported a rape in progress at the Reanders Institute. Minutes later, Banner and his men arrived, with Santa Monica PD behind. Jim entered seconds later holding his badge. SWAT stepped out of the elevator and took the two guards down. Apparently, the variant Reanders used didn't rage them, and so they had near normal strength. Reanders laid on the floor, sobbing and shaking. There was blood between her legs, and I gave no pity. I composed myself and straightened my panties. I brushed my dress clean and took the elevator to the lobby. Jim was next to me, but didn't say a word. Santa Monica PD made the arrest. A minute later, 2 EMTs with a stretcher walked in. An FBI agent followed. A few minutes after that, they all came out. Reanders was tied down. As they were passing, Reanders said, "Please stop. I want to say a few things to Miss Bechard." They stopped. I looked her in the eyes. Her stare was focused and intense. They were the clearest I've seen. "Miss Bechard, I am leaving you with a gift, peace of mind and heart, and the peace I give is a gift the world cannot give, so don't be troubled or afraid." I didn't respond, but I didn't let her see fear. We stared at one another for a few more seconds. Then she said, "Okay, I am done. Take me away." The truth was, I was afraid. One part scary genius, one part rage. Result is sometimes dangerous. I still had the satisfaction in knowing that a bullet to the head would solve everyone's problem. We continued to stare at one another. Just before they lifted her into the ambulance, I outstretched my arm and held my hand in a gun pose. I snapped my thumb down in a double tap. She understood. and that was all I needed. After the ambulance pulled away, I made a call to Vadnais. He told me no need to head back to the office so soon. All transfer paperwork would be handled promptly. I could do a video conference with him and the SG in the morning from Mr. Porter's office. When I called Mr. Porter, he had been expecting my call. He said we could work out the details tomorrow morning, and I'd get a full disclosure on what the positions entailed. I gave him my director recommendation. He said very well, and he would take care of the rest. A few minutes later, Banner's cell went off. I was watching him when he answered. After about 5 minutes, he hung up and walked over to me. He had a questioning look on his face. I smiled and said, "If they like you and you like them, you'll be in the know. Really in the know." He laughed and gave me a light punch to the shoulder. Jim and Mary I would tell later. This evening I was going to relax and be merry. Then I remembered Caspar Shank's Farewell to Grog song and thought out the first verse. Come, messmates, pass the bottle round. Our time is short, remember, for our grog must stop and our spirits drop on the first day of September. For tonight will merry, merry be. For tonight will merry, merry be. For tonight will merry, merry be. Tomorrow will be sober.
But damn this on this door, we know the fairy vest the way. Hey! Come, messmates, pass the bottle round. Our time is short, remember, for our grog must stop and our spirits drop on the first day of September. For tonight will merry, merry be. For tonight will merry, merry be. For tonight will merry, merry be. Tomorrow will be sober.
Was Gavin Huck the Wovers when to fill in all the gay?
Hi! Come, messmates, pass the bottle round. Our time is short, remember, for our grog must stop and our spirits drop on the first day of September. For tonight will merry, merry be. For tonight will merry, merry be. For tonight will merry, merry be. Tomorrow will be sober.
The hamper hop on the slumbers up and stirring in the way.
Ha! Come, messmates, pass the bottle round. Our time is short, remember, for our grog must stop and our spirits drop on the first day of September. For tonight will merry, merry be. For tonight will merry, merry be. For tonight will merry, merry be. Tomorrow will be sober.
But when we comes to
Thank you for listening to Rage, written by J. Karen Jones, narrated by Lauren Sweet. If you enjoyed this story, please give us a like and subscribe. Our goal is to provide you with original human-written stories. Until then,
For tonight will merry, merry be. For tonight will merry, merry be. Tomorrow will be sober.